Hello everyone, my name is T. Hunter. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. If this is your first time coming to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back and thank you so much for coming back. I know that I haven't really talked about what my previous work experience was on this channel, and today I want to share a little bit of that with you. And the reason I say that is because I think oftentimes the assumption is when people find out that I am a marriage and family therapist, that I solely work with couples. I only do couples counseling, premarital counseling, and other things of that nature. But I actually can see the whole gamut. I can see children, adolescents, young adults, couples, families. I can do it all. Straight out of graduate school, I actually had the opportunity to work with a nonprofit organization where I did what they called wraparound services. So while I was working with this nonprofit organization, I did a lot of permanency work. So what that means is children who were at risk of being placed out of the home because they were either experiencing neglect, abuse of some sort, or perhaps they had gotten in trouble with the law, so they had a probation officer and they were at risk of, reoffending or violating their probation terms and therefore being detained in the juvenile detention center. That's what I mean by permanency. We're trying to provide as many services as possible to make sure that they can stay in the home with their caregivers, whether that be their parents, adoptive, foster, whoever it was. So today I want to talk about why family finding is so essential for not only those at-risk youth, but also their parents or their caregivers. I noticed that when I first started working in this particular setting, that my supervisors and my peers, they would mention terms like support and family finding during the course of treatment with my clients and their caregivers. So although my supervisors and my peers might not have initially gone into great detail around what these terms meant, I did learn eventually why I needed to have those discussions with each family that I served. So I'll start with identifying the village, the family finding. So I quickly discovered that it was essential to build a strong network of individuals that my clients and their caregivers could rely on during and most importantly after my services had ended. Getting caregivers to sign releases of authorization for me to talk to family members, family friends, that was only a fraction of the battle. Having a name and a telephone number for someone meant nothing if that individual did not have a well-defined and working role in my clients and their caregivers' lives. So in my experience, cold calling these types of individuals was a hit or miss. Because sometimes once they found out that I was doing permanency work with the youth in question, their immediate thoughts were, you're going to ask me for either financial support or I am next in line to house this kid if they are being put out of their current home with their parent, caregiver, whomever. And sadly, this assumption or this fear was incorrect majority of the time. The main goal for these family finding calls was for me to find out exactly who these people were, what role they had in the clients and the caregivers' lives, what were their desires, what did they want that relationship to look like. So the main goal for family finding was to show my clients that they were not alone in this world. There are people that A, care about them, B, want to be in their lives, and C, would stay permanently if given the opportunity. Family finding was helpful in showing caregivers also how to reach out for assistance for the benefit of not only their child, but the entire household. One person doing everything is a recipe for burnout, burned bridges, resentment, loss of joy, and hope. So when people are open to building a team of loved ones to assist them when they're going through difficult times in life, now there's strength and safety, not only around the caregiver, but around the child and the entire household. I'll move on to my next point. The key to getting support. My advice is to be specific and give concrete examples when you're asking for support, because it is such a broad term. People don't know what you mean when you say, hey, can you support me? Unless you're saying, these are the ways in which I define support. Can you help me with any of these specific tasks? So people use phrases like, let me know if you need anything, and it sounds wonderful. However, It is necessary to take some time to identify what you need so you can then receive assistance when others offer to help or ask how can they help. Once we had found the support network, we would then encourage the family and the friends to consider practical things that they could do to make their presence known to the youth as well as their caregivers. So their support could be calling to check in, not only with the child, but also with the parents to see how they're doing. Sending birthday cards, taking the youth on an outing, such as going out to eat, taking them to, the mall, the movies, an amusement park, or whatever it was that they wanted to do and could reasonably afford. Having a meal together with the family as often as they like. It could be weekly, it could be monthly, whatever makes the most sense for them. Offering a ride to or from school or extracurricular activities as often as they could afford or could agree to with the caregiver. Sleepovers to give the youth and their parents a break. A place to stay for a few days should an emergency arise, such as a new baby is on the way and it might be difficult to manage, a child who's under a certain age. So having a safe place where they could stay while mom and dad are in the hospital with the new baby and until they get home and get situated. Sometimes there could be a death in the family and perhaps the parents have to go out of town. So if they cannot take the child with them, where would they stay? So asking those very concrete, very specific questions so we could identify if you need this very specific thing, this is the person that you would call. Also, if a caregiver gets sick or they're injured, perhaps they might need support with, the child staying, 1 or 2 nights until they get situated, especially if it's something as serious as requiring a hospital stay. And lastly, offering transportation support in such emergency cases. You're not just trying to figure out where your child is going to stay, but also like who might be able to take them to school, pick them up from school. If they're working, who could give them a ride to and from work if they didn't have access to, say, public transportation. So all of those are concrete forms of support that we would ask family and friends to consider. Could you do any of these things? Or if not, what would you be able to offer the family as far as support so that they know they're not doing this thing by themselves? Because oftentimes that's when I would start to see a breakdown in how stable a placement was for a child, even if it is with their family of origin or their biological parents. If the parents are overwhelmed, they are overworked, they're underpaid, and perhaps they don't feel appreciated, sometimes they could be at their wits' end. But bring in a family friend, bring in some trustworthy relatives, bring in some community leaders and some mentors that can help them with encouragement, helping them with concrete tasks like, providing a meal, talking to the child to make sure that they're doing okay, offering to take the child out, for a few hours or overnight or for a weekend trip. That can make the world of a difference because it gives the parents a break, it gives the youth a break, and you're also helping to establish connections between the child and other trustworthy adults. So they're not feeling isolated. Like if I can't talk to my parents, I have no one else to talk to as far as a reliable adult that I can feel safe with, that I trust. And if I need anything, here are other resources that I can go to. Notice when I mentioned the different forms of support, I did not mention permanent placement for the youth in treatment. Why? Because not every relative or family friend has the capacity to handle such a huge responsibility. Some people have rich histories about the youth's family that they can share. Sometimes people just need to have contact with these types of family and friends who can share those funny stories or those impactful lessons. Every youth deserves to know where they come from, even if they can't live with their parents or other relatives. Last but not least, my final point, the real goal for family finding is to create a strong network around the youth and their caregivers. My former clinical director shared something so profound about the power of relationships. She explained that loneliness is a crisis, and it is. I will add to her sentiments and say that isolation contributes to the crisis of loneliness. When people isolate themselves for whatever reasons, they cut themselves off from resources and relationships that are essential for not only them simply surviving, but actually thriving in all areas of their lives. While I did do permanency work with at-risk youth, I don't think that family finding is a concept that is limited to this particular setting. I think anybody can apply these tools. So, if you're hoping to build a strong network of safe and reliable individuals around you and your immediate family, I would advise that you please consider these tips. Be honest about what you envision for those relationships. Do not try to manipulate people into helping you just because you're related or you've been friends for a significant amount of time, because they could just stop dealing with you altogether. Be flexible with your expectations. People don't have to give you their time, their money, or their efforts. So if you're coming across as a bit too rigid, they may opt out of relationship with you altogether. And there goes your support as well as the relationship. Express gratitude and appreciation when people do something for you. Thank you in word and deed goes a long way. Return favors, because people are more likely to look out for you when they know that you will also look out for them. Be pure with your love and your intentions, and I promise that you will get the same back, even if you don't get it back from the places that you expected. So the question to ponder is, what does support look like for you? Maybe you don't need a place to stay. Maybe you don't need money. Maybe you would prefer to have someone that you can, call and talk to after you've had a rough day at work, school, and family finding is so essential because too often I think that people have this mindset of, well, I just have to be independent. Whatever I'm going through, I need to just suck it up and just, press my way through it without telling anyone how I'm feeling, what I'm going through, what my thought process is, or reaching out for any form of support. And that's not true. I think it's very sad when people go through difficult times by themselves because in their minds, they're not worthy of having assistance. They're not worthy of having community. But I believe that everybody deserves to have a strong network of people that they can rely on, whether it's people that you are related to, it can be friends, mentors, colleagues, whoever you want to have in that network of natural support. Put them in there because this is your life. You know what will be most supportive, what will be most helpful for you. So don't let anyone tell you that, oh, well, if it's not a relative, then you probably shouldn't try to rely on them. Sometimes the people that we end up developing the deepest connections with are people that we would have least expected to have such a strong bond with. If you have enjoyed this video, please feel free to give it a like, subscribe to my channel for more content, and make sure to hit that notification bell so you never miss a future post. Thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in my next video. Bye, guys.